Please welcome our Impact Investors panel. And on this panel will feature Mr. Mandar Dikshit, Director at Social Alpha, Mr. Raghavendra Rao, Director, Portfolio India Health Fund, Mr. Vivek Pawar, Founder and CEO, Netra Accelerator Foundation. Along with this, Mr. Girendra Kasmalkar, Managing Partner at Pentathlon Ventures and founder of Ideas to Impact Hub, will be moderating the session. He's also a mentor at SI Hub and a PIC member.
Good evening. It's my pleasure to be here, and thank you all for being here. I know the schedule has got delayed, but thanks for your interest in staying back for this panel discussion. I have a great panel with me. Let me start with my introduction, and I'll also ask my panelists to introduce themselves. I'm Girendra Kasmalkar. I am the founder and managing partner at Pentathlon Ventures, which happens to be in Pune's first VC fund. We are into investing in the B2B tech kind of fund, so not really social impact kind of a fund. And that's why I'm here to learn a lot from these guys. We do have something called the Ideas to Impacts Hub, which is a startup ecosystem. But again, not so much on the social impact side. My social impact exposure comes from the SI lab, which I'm a member of. And it has been always very interesting to look at the problems that are being solved, which are different from the problems that I see in my day-to-day job at Pentathlon or Ideas to Impacts Hub. So I've been talking with these gentlemen in preparation for this, and I've really enjoyed the discussions, and I hope you enjoyed too. So let me start by asking all my panelists to introduce themselves, about themselves and their funds, and take it from there then.
Hello, this is Mandar Dikshit. I'm from Social Alpha. Social Alpha basically is a full stack architecture for startups to take their product from lab to market. And we support at each and every stage, and investment is one of our tools, but we also do provide grants to the startups in their journey. And venture development support is something which we do all the way. And we do a lot of hand-holding to the startups so that not just the funds or investment, but also the technology should progress and it should accelerate, and the lab to market journey should be reduced. So my role at Social Alpha is I'm technology due diligence is something which we carried out regularly. We scout for the solutions, startups, and also we have thesis areas where we are looking for the gaps in the system, and we kind of have priority problem statements for which we look out for the solutions. And then once startups are in our portfolio, we do mentoring with them. So as a mentor, I work closely with startups on R&D, product development, also part of the business and investment strategy decisions. Yeah.
Thank you, Mandar. Raghavendra?
Hello, everyone. I'm Raghav. I'm Director Portfolio at India Health Fund. India Health Fund is set up by the Tata Trust. We're about 8 years old now. We are set up as a conversation that's happened between the late Mr. Ratan Tata and the Global Fund, who focuses on HIV, tuberculosis, and malaria. The essence with which India Health Fund was set up was to de-risk the development of innovations meant for impact within public health. We started off with infectious diseases. We've expanded to human antimicrobial resistance, the intersection of climate change and health, and now we're looking at maternal health and NCDs as well soon. What we do is we pick up innovations, not so different from what Mandar just said. We identify problem statements situated within public health and then find use cases in technology, be it diagnostics, digital health tools, processes, etc., that could solve for these problems and fund them and then mentor them, coordinate with other stakeholders in the ecosystem, such as incubators like this center, etc., to make sure we accelerate their journey from a prototype-ready technology, which is at a laboratory, to a fully ready technology that can be used in public health hospitals or private health hospitals. So that's a bit of what we do. And as director of portfolio, I lead the team of public health experts who identify these problem statements, work with various stakeholders to then find which suit our investment thesis. Thanks.
Thank you, Raghavendra. Vivek?
Yeah. So I'm Vivek Pawar. I worked my most of the journey in corporate. Basically, I was in Textile Instruments, in semiconductor. I came back from Houston 20 years back and started a semiconductor company in a tier 2 city, Hubli, Dharwad. And then after exiting from that, we actually became the biggest chip design company in the world from that position. And then I joined Deshpande Foundation as CEO 7 years back. I was founding trustee from beginning, but I became CEO for 5 years. Currently, I'm advisor, but I think Deshpande Foundation focus has been 4 areas. Agriculture, basically increasing the livelihood. Second is micro entrepreneurs. Third is startup from Bharat and for Bharat. Basically, startups from tier 2, tier 3 cities and startups who are trying to impact the tier 2, tier 3 cities. And finally, skilling, basically, for employment. So these are the 4 areas Deshpande Foundation works on, and that's kind of it.
So thank you very much, all of you. The way I look at it is that in these kind of sessions, what I want the audience to do is look at the world from our perspective. Put yourself in the shoes of the funds. And generally speaking, everybody thinks that funds are there to just give you money to get your activities rolling. But what does the world look like from the funds perspective is what I'm trying to get at. And from that perspective, Mandar, let me ask you the first question. Who are your investors and why do they invest?
Yes, so we have 2 kind of investors. One, our own funds, founders fund, which we spend for actual investment, which are against equity. And then we run many programs throughout the years, for which we get CSR grants. So Bill and Melinda Gates, TBS, Selco are our one of the major funders. We many times share the same problem statement. So as I said, Social Alpha has priority problem statements and areas where we want to work and fill that market gap through science and technology innovations that startup provide. And in doing so, we see if the funder also has similar kind of problem statements which are overlapping. And then we collaborate, work and design the program in such a way that what are the needs of the startups? What are the funding gaps? Which areas does startup need support to, get from TRL 3 to 4 to 5? And then we design a program together, and then we, reach out to the startups and ask to apply. So I think the investments, direct investments are personal, and some HNIs who do believe in our mission, and they do directly contribute to our investments. And CSR, as I said, many believers are there with whom we work closely.
So that's great. Anybody else, if you want to add anything, because Mandar has covered most of the ground. There are promoters who start the investments in the companies, but then there are CSR programs who do the end beneficiary kind of things. Anything you want to add?
Yeah, so for example, we are funded entirely by the Tata Trust, and our role is to, like I said, de-risk the development and the validation of these technologies. But that's just one part of the whole value chain. These innovations then need to be put in the public, where you'll need other kind of funding, blended finance to come in, equity investments to come in, CSR funding to come in to generate the data, the relevant evidence in community health for these to be successful. So it's 2 ways. One, what our funders are asking us is what is the progress that these innovations are making. You pick it up at technology readiness level 5, where you have a prototype that's working in a laboratory. And by the end of your funding support, this should be ready technologies that is already being deployed at some level within public health system. So that's the kind of impact. Just for everyone's knowledge, we don't invest in these startups, we give grants. So there's no take back in terms of finances. The impact that we seek is what kind of difference, what kind of impact this particular innovation is making within the public health space. What's the dent we have in that? And that's what we're measured against. So, yeah.
Okay. So if there anything...
Just a 2-liner. So I think the whole fund comes from Deshpande Foundation, Deshpande family, which is 350 plus crore for the last 15 years. But the CSR funds invest because they see that Deshpande Foundation has done R&D on the products, so which are services for the social impact. So they invest for the better social return on investment.
What I'm seeing is that there is some funding that is involved for building the capability of the founders and some to actually get the outcomes from that. So that's what I'm thinking, that there is some money invested in the companies that builds the capability. And also in the end, you want to see the outcomes that are coming out of it, not just outputs, the outcomes that are important. And what I'm also seeing is that the investors are interested in that. And they're interesting professionals like you to make sure that these things are happening. So I'm pretty sure there are specific metrics that you evolve as part of this. And can you give some examples of the metrics that are being tracked, both on the capability building side? Both of you talked about TRLs, but most importantly on the impact side of things. What is the outcomes that have happened?
Yeah, since we've had the Marshalker Prize awarded today, I'll probably give an example from the previous awardee, which is Swasa. That's one of our portfolio entities. The idea was this was a tool that was developed to function as a respiratory triage tool using machine learning. So I'll just give you an example of how that works. So on your phone, there is an app where you can record a simulated cough sound, and their proprietary machine learning algorithm then analyzes these cough signatures to identify abnormalities within respiratory health that the patient has. What we wanted to do was perhaps use this and see if this can be a good marker for your triage for tuberculosis detection. Because tuberculosis currently is being screened using X-rays, etc., which is still at some level, there is exposure to the patient. With cough sound or a tool like this, we can possibly go a step beyond. So that's how we've started off. Now, to your point, how do you measure the return? The return is when this technology, when we funded the validation of this across 3 AIMS centers, and right now the algorithm is performing at an accuracy of greater than 85%. If I take that evidence, now we presented that to ICMR, who were very happy with that. If this somehow gets pushed into the TB program as a triage tool, that's the kind of win that our funder is seeking. Just to give you a very clear example. Again, all the investment we make, we don't expect any return, because the idea is if we de-risk this right now, there will be equity investments ready for that, and that is where sustainability can come.
So it's the gap. I mean, I've in the discussions with all of you, I've heard of this word gap quite often. You talked about market gap, you talked about need gap, you talked about the scale gap. And so once you fill that gap, then there are other sources that are available to that, is what you're saying. We discussed the why the investors invest, and we also discussed the what kind of matrix that we're talking about. Now we'll come to the crux of it, which is the how. How do you do it? And Vivek, can I ask you this question, that what are the biggest challenges during this journey of reaching these metrics that you can talk about? Yes.
Yeah. I think the biggest problem is if you take any impact, let's say skilling, could be a farmer's improvement in income, the solution that you have is basically very researched. So it will make some impact, but it starts failing after some scale. So R&D of any product is very, very important, and most NGOs don't get funds for developing that product, making it stable and scalable. And even if some gets funding, the resources are not capable. So you need to get people with 20, 25 years of experience in the industry, have done R&D, and they're able to get from a idea stage to actually kind of an impact stage to scale stage, and scale to sustainable stage. And that is very important. So I think that is the biggest challenge. If that can be done, I think that's one important point that needs to be taken care of.
I think you mentioned that one of the, I talked about the scale gap that you think about at Deshpande Foundation. And one of the solutions that you have is you build that R&D capability, the research that happens, the resources centrally, and then allow other NGOs to use that research. And that's how the solution scales.
Yeah, I can give an example. So I think what Deshpande Foundation's goal was to kind of, in the North Karnataka sandbox, take up a problem, create a kind of R&D solution with using technology, with support, training, and kind of make it available for any NGO across India to scale it. So example could be Farm Pond was created earlier. Farm Pond was basically kind of a water collected in the farm, which is a century-old solution. But farmers are not able to do because of the division of the farm, and they don't know where to do it. When they do the farm pond, impact 50,000 rupees is spent on that, but water doesn't get accumulated. The farmer is gone for a toss. So we had to use kind of a geospatial based, Google based. There's a tool created which could actually give the location of the farm pond, where maximum local water from that farm can be actually collected and inlet outlet can be designed. And that was used, and that helped actually for the Respiratory Foundation to 1,000 farm ponds to actually 15,000 farm ponds in over 3 years using the technology. And that was given to Rajasthan, Telangana, Andhra Pradesh, and scaled that way.
Excellent. This was in the beginning of the journey where you're talking about R&D, but you also made an interesting point about the execution excellence and what you did as the Deshpande Foundation to achieve that.
Yeah. Yes. So all of you know, right? For-profit companies never have problem of execution. There's a dosa guy, put a vendor there, and if dosa quality has gone bad, somebody will take up the business and he will fail. But for not-for-profit, the service they give to is a basically kind of a beneficiary, fund is coming from somebody else. So even if the service deteriorates, the beneficiary stays there because there is no immediate feedback of the quality of the execution. So for not-for-profit, the best feedback is from beneficiary. If he doesn't pay for it, that means feedback is bad. So what the Deshpande Foundation goal is, get beneficiary to pay significant amount when it kind of scales. So if beneficiary is paying, like for example, we had a skilling program where basically it was free, attendance would be maybe 20-30%. When we started asking for 5,000 rupees, the attendance went to shoot up to 80%. So why it happened? Because whenever the money is asked for it, they will demand the quality and they'll also contribute to that to make it success. So beneficiary paying is very important because in the long run, it becomes sustainable because as we start improving the R&D, our fixed cost remains same, variable cost reduces, and finally what happens is basically majority money comes from the beneficiary. Then when you scale, you don't have to put extra cost and the scale becomes possible. So that's a kind of a model.
Excellent. Both of you have talked about de-risking startups, and one of the things that we have seen today also, all the presenters discussing, all of them are full of passion. There is no question about that. But we are helping them in the scale, in the phase after that. And you had some comments on the ideas that founders come up with and what you need to help them with in terms of governance and reaching the matrix that you want.
Yeah, I'll break it down across a few levels. Firstly, we are trying to find technology solutions that could solve for public health. And a majority of our innovations come in the diagnostics pathway or even in the digital health pathway. So with diagnostics, for example, some of our founders are basically scientists who are working at the lab. While they're developing these diagnostic test kits, new age ones, novel ones that are coming in, they always need to be based in some sort of reality where this product can be used within public health. So what we do is, right after, like I said, everything starts for us with the development of core problem statements. These problem statements and the use cases are validated with the end users, mainly from the government. So all of our technical evaluation, we have participation from the ICMR, the Central TB Division, the National Vector Control Board, internationally organizations like United, etc., and also from the state health systems, end users, whoever is the health officer there, etc. These participate in these sessions to understand that the solution that somebody's proposing can actually have adoption within public health. If not, we're not going to take that risk up because we're already giving you grant funding. We don't want to develop a fancy technology that will have no use within the primary healthcare system in the public health. So that's one way we solve for this problem. The other problem that I wanted to mention before probably Mandar can add more is, like I said, many of them come with a specific skill set and a specific background. So we have a couple of scientists who developed a prognostic biomarker, a host-based biomarker for tuberculosis, which perhaps will become the first end-of-treatment test in the country. Again, these are two scientists who have no background in terms of developing the market access pathway, the distribution strategy, the manufacturing strategy, sales strategy. Now, how do you, if you allow these entrepreneurs to go solve for this themselves, it's going to be a very long journey. It's already a very difficult path given how complex the regulatory and validation pathway sometimes it can be, especially in the clinical field. So we then tie these entities up with organizations that have already solved for this. So for example, we've partnered this startup with Molbio Diagnostics, who already have a very established manufacturing base, a distribution strategy, a sales strategy. So then The R&D is something that these new age entrepreneurs can focus on, while the rest of the upstream, the market access, will be done by somebody like Malbio with a very equitable arrangement to make sure they get their pie, and we also have a significant public health impact. So these are some of the problems that we actively try and solve for.
Mandar, you could also talk about your...
Yeah. We have a bit a different perspective when startups come to us. We do see their scientific vigor, credentials, the solution. What we see that many people do not do good competitive landscaping of the solutions. So many times solutions are available or not available. That is not, people just run and take their solution and then they say, okay, we have this solution. But there are many competitors who are already there. So when we come in, we ask startups to do extensive competitor analysis. That is one thing we do. And then as in when we work with startup, as you said, that the co-founder role becomes very important. So we look at the team. We want, okay, you are a scientific person and business aspect should be taken care of or something. Because at Social Alpha, we typically want people to make their own company and not transfer the technology developed, because we are investing in impact, and the final impact is actually people's life saved, or if it is a climate, the carbon credits achieved, if it is livelihood number of jobs created. So these are the final impact matrices, but in between, since we are supporting indirect impact matrices are there. And we do not want people to leave their product development at one stage and give it to someone else who would perhaps get into private sector and make it far profit that ultimate impact for which we have invested would not come. So we want to strengthen their team as well. So we actually work with startup very closely, that we even work with them at a recruitment level as well.
Okay.
So right from finding a co-founder to the startup to getting the early market access and seeing their product succeed in the market, we work with them and then we take exit.
Got it. Coming now from the governance part, let me first of all ask you, how do you select these founders? Because in some cases it may be possible to help them, in some cases it may not be possible to help them. So maybe Raghavendra, what do you do to get these founders in the first place? How do you select them?
When we look at the solution, I think for me, again, because of my significant focus on public health impact, for me, their commitment to the cause, commitment to the problem in terms of what they're trying to solve for is quite key. Secondly, we also look at, like Mandar said, some of these startups are in the early stages where they're dependent on grant funding to actually solve for this. They're very frugal in terms of how they're set up. They're a very lean setup. So you probably will not have all the elements immediately baked in. But we look for, one, of course, the scientific rigor in terms of how strong the solution is, how tied up to the closeness of the problem, how well has this person done their user research in terms of solving for the need gap on the ground. And then we then look at where we could build capacity, where we could provide them the right sort of mentorship. Is it manufacturing? Is it design? Is it regulatory know-how? That's where the ecosystem comes in to sort of support them.
Got it. Thanks. Vivek, Deshpande Foundation has a very unique approach of selecting these startups. Can you just elaborate on that?
Yes. So Deshpande Foundation actually came to India to actually create a product or maybe a solution and scale it. So wanted to select at least 4 or 5 NGOs which can scale across India. Now applications were asked for, 500 plus application came. Now you can interview them, do them, grill them, and invest in 5. But what was thought was, if that is not best way to select who can implement at scale. So what was done was, if 500 applications come, give a small fund of 5 lakhs to them, saying that what idea that you are going to do, implement, try it out, R&D in next 1 year to improve your kind of a scale, reach from maybe X to 1.5X or 2X or 3X. Then based on the funding was given, next year they were asked, now that you go, next year we'll fund more now, maybe instead of 10 lakhs we'll go 25 lakhs, but come back saying that how are you going to go from a 1X to 5X or 1X to 10X. Then out of 100, 25, maybe 85 came back because most of them didn't really achieve the purpose, so they didn't even come back. So that got absolute normal filtering out. Remaining were told, so out of that, 5 or 6 were selected, and I'll take one example, right? So Akshay Patra came. First time they said, okay, we want to go from 50,000 to 50,000 meals per day in the North Karnataka to 75,000. So for initial was, so earlier year they had come from 40,000 to 50,000, asking some grinders and mixers. Next year they came, they want some kind of machines which can actually so help cooking better. So they were doing whatever they had planned, they executed better than that. So they told them, why don't you think about 50,000 meals per day to 500,000, 10x. They said, we can't even think of. We can't even do the resources. They said, they should go back. Figure out, basically, what you can do, what help you need from the Deshpande Foundation. They went back and then came back again saying that we can't even imagine this. So Deshpande provided some experts. Sushil Bachchan, who was on the board. He went to there, did the operation analysis, and they figured out that they have to do a 2-story kind of a gravity-laid kind of a dispensing machine, so that basically is not depend on electrical for packing the food in the vans. Van have to reach within 4 hours to the school within the 150 kilometer. So all these are planned, and they finally came that they want actually kind of a $1 million for making that center.
So this unique idea was that invested 500 companies in the beginning. Yeah. Let's see who actually, is a natural selection I would call it. Exactly. And once you find 10 companies that can actually scale, then make sure they scale 10x, not 2x or something like that. So that was quite kind of unique, I thought.
And that became the biggest kitchen in the Asia.
Yes, yes. And Akshay Patra, everybody knows. So essentially what we have done here is gone kind of a reverse chronological order in the life cycle of a startup. We first talked about the impact, the matrix and so on. How is that achieved in terms of governance? And then how we even select the companies for this kind of thing. So we have completed the life cycle, but in a reverse order, because like I said earlier, we wanted to put you in the shoes of the investors and understand where they're coming from. The life cycle is over, but I just wanted all of you to address a question about the environment of the startup ecosystem. And I'm going to suggest 2 things that you can talk about. One is government. I mean, they can support, they can also constrain because of regulation. And the second one is technology. So if you can, any one of you can answer the question about how is government supporting, how is government constraining, and on the second part is whether technology is what is...
Yeah, I'll be quick. In terms of support, I think a lot of the biotech innovation actually kicked off and there was an upsurge in that because of the number of incubators that are set up. I see Mugdha sitting right here, Venture Center, several such incubators around the country where we can actively, even folks like us, when we try to fund somebody, we need an active pipeline that's developing at least at a TRL3, at least at a proof of concept that is a promising solution for us to do. I think through government support, through entities like BIRAC, through the funding that they offer, especially at the early stage, there are a lot of early stage entrepreneurs, researchers who are able to take that leap in this space and develop these technologies. Some of these examples we've seen today, but that's I think, one of the pluses in terms of how I'm seeing this ecosystem develop. In terms of the challenges, I think regulatory is still a significant challenge, especially when it comes to novel diagnostics. Now it's a dichotomy in a way because one, you need new technologies which are not following the traditional pathway, probably trying to solve for something new and in a new chemical process, a new, new molecular process. But the regulatory then becomes that much more complicated because like in the medical device space, you say there's no predicate, there's no previous example to measure this Y in the same. So the the process becomes that much more elongated and complicated sometimes. So, it really, when all of us use the word patient capital, especially in healthcare, it really is patient capital. Sometimes you have to give 2 more years, 3 more years to just see the light of day for really promising products. So that sometimes can be a challenge, especially when it comes to new age diagnostics and also increasingly the digital tools. We see a lot of these digital tools. Girindra, you talked about how technology is emerging as well. So increasingly we're looking for point of care diagnostics, easy to use tools which do not need laboratory infrastructure, which do not need expert users, lab technicians to actually use them. A health worker can simply use without foregoing the accuracy, bringing in economies of scale, etc. So that is happening because of the advancement in technology. We are now looking at benchtop devices in diagnostics and more digital tools. But again, the regulatory pathway for digital tools and tools that use machine learning is as difficult. We've supported a startup called Cure AI. It's based out of Bombay. Right now at 700 million odd funding, scaled up across 45 countries over the globe. but not seen scale in India because again, we do not really know, we're not very clear in terms of the acceptance, the adoption, the regulatory pathway for spaces like this. There is no clear set mandates where, the kind of evidence these startups need to build, you'll have to jump through different loops. Sometimes I think that is something that we can still look to solve for. I think I've seen some really positive signs this year, starting from how ICMR is trying to work together with an agency like Sedesco to actually align and make this more, circular processes. Yeah.
Anything you want to add, Mandar? No?
Actually, government typically needs evidence and a complete solution. So if you're giving 3 solutions to buy 3 different things, but if it is combined one, like the one which Marshall Foundation has just launched today, it's a complete solution. That kind of solutions typically government looking for, so that it can be scaled easily, and the problem is solved. For them, they do not want to search for individual solutions which are best and then combine and get. That system still is evolving, and obviously regulatory hurdles are common to each, and for which our patient capitals help them to survive till first your private sector orders are markets are open, then you approach to a CSR, and then you go to government, so that enough evidence is created about the product and its use cases, and it's easy for government to take up.
Good. On the tech side, I think you had some point about where tech should be actually used. Otherwise, there is AI for AI's sake and all of that. So where is tech actually useful?
Yeah, I think what happens is that every NGO, when it proves the model, that it's making an impact, and it is sustainable, then the scale starts. As soon as scale start, the biggest challenge comes is last mile delivery is always lowest cost, lowest capability person. And that leads to a drop of quality. And when quality drops of the impact, immediately scale stops. So how do we actually make sure that the impact happens without losing because of the quality of the last mile delivery, as well as beneficiaries also, quality is low. They have a lower capability and skill to absorb it. So that is where we realized we did 2 things. One of them was basically activity-based learning or activity-based kind of effort, so that the last mile delivery person is more kind of facilitator rather than driver. But most important thing was technology. If you have to have a technology which ensures that the last mile quality becomes better. So take an example of either skilling or a farm pond. So farm pond, I took the example, right? So farm pond water, if one farm pond becomes successful, farmer increases income, next year 10 farmer will come. But in one village, if one farm pond fails, 100 farmers will not do. So that's a kind of impact of failure is very high. So they are very risk averse because there is no disposable income. So we have to make sure that technology is used to reduce all the risk from the beneficiary, so that we are not making negative impact. And that's where the tool, which was used for the farm pond, was useful. Also for skilling, we had to use the LMS tool to make sure that the students can retain things and improve the quality becomes better. And only schools we had laptops, computers there. We had to go to those colleges we selected. And finally, we had to also find a tool, AI-based tool, for looking at the interview skills, because many students failed in the interview despite having skills because of the problem. So we had basically one kind of a tool called N-Talent tool, which was basically a startup from Bangalore, which used to do AI-based, look at the questions, look at the facial recognition, and identify the persistence, whether the student actually is able to kind of fail and come back from that failure. So persistence, perseverance, and also kind of ability to sustain rejection. And that was helped to improve the impact.
Got it. So note to the founders sitting here that please do not be under the impression that we investors here are looking for the word AI in your deck. It's not here. So essentially what all of us are saying, that how is being used to provide a solution is what all of us are looking for here. I think we are running out of time. So I'll just take one rapid fire round for each one of you to answer one simple question. And that is, how do you see impact funding change in the future? Can we just start with Mandar?
Yeah, I think recently many R&D startups are taking up, and they are becoming a big company now, and they have given good returns to the typical VC investors. Not these rounds, but Series A, Series B rounds. So now I feel that there is more confidence growing in Indian startup founders and ecosystem as such, because ecosystem as such is the main enabler. Ecosystem is building. That's why now people perhaps might go more and more putting money into R&D. That's where I
So
see
you think more investments are going to
more
happen. So it's a
investment
good positive thing.
would happen.
Yes. Raghavendra?
Two things. One, grant funding, as we see, is also looking at other elements of blended finance. So there are returnable grants that are emerging. There are multi-funder programs which are emerging where you're looking at part equity, part grant, part returnable grant, part loan kind of arrangements which are bringing in the need for sustainability on the founders faster, but there's also a sense of responsibility so that you're not, especially when you're innovators developing, you also build in that element of sustainability right from the get-go. Secondly, I think even from a funder's side, it can't be siloed anymore. You can't look at health, climate in silos. There is an interconnectedness that's happening. How is climate change and vector transmission dynamics actually affecting how healthcare will be delivered in geographies which previously didn't have a burden for a particular vector-borne disease? How is the functioning of a medical device being affected because of change in heat patterns? So you'll have to now focus on developing climate-resilient diagnostics. So it's a changing world. There is an interconnectedness that is happening. And this is something that needs to adoption both from the innovators and from funders as well. So I think that's the other change I wanted to talk about.
Thank you. And Vivek, what do you think?
Yeah, I think the major change is happening is with the social media and internet access, right? The funders are getting a lot more startups access compared to earlier days to only a local start. So that's one. So more startups are NGOs or social services are accessible for the CSR. Second, what is happening is because the maturity has increased of the CSR funding as well as the access to that, the impact measures are looked at very strongly. So two things are going to change. First of all, a few years back, a decade back, the CSR will say, hey, I'm investing. If somebody is investing already, why do I need to invest in you? Because I want to invest into primary and make an impact felt. Now they are saying that, hey, if you have another investor CSRs, then I'll support you. So that's a big change happening. So multiple CSR saying, we want to support one startup, one NGO, which can actually scale. And more funders are there, so that they're not dependent on one funding, because they have seen that when they pull out the funding, the NGO collapses and dies down. They don't want that to happen. That's one change. And second change they are saying is that, they're saying that I don't want just kind of a founder to be interested, very good in values, want to have a good intent. They want impact to be seen. So more you show the impact, better results are there, you will get the funding, that impact is going to come in.
Metrics.
Great. Very clear metrics now.
Great. We started with metrics, we end with metrics. So
I'll just add this one example, because how things are changing. As he said, many times the requirement of the startup is much more than what is claimed for. So we generally evaluate startups and we find out with them what is their exact requirement to develop the particular product. And if we can have multiple investors or co-investors, like Lavani is one of our co-investors, we bring them on table and say that, okay, this is what you need so that you can seamlessly carry out your product development. So I think these models are evolving, and we all are part of this ecosystem, and we collaborate.
Good. We gave a brief look into the future as well. Any questions from the audience? Would be very happy to take them. I think, okay, there's one. Somebody over there.
Yeah, I had a question from, you said the stage indicating that it was a discussion from the investor side. So you kind of get the sense, not just for startups, but for MSMEs as well. I don't want to include MSMEs in this, but regulatory compliances seem to be a big hurdle, regardless of these entities. So from the investor side, how do you perceive it, and can there be a concerted efforts, like a consortium of investors, that can help move the needle on regulatory compliances, especially while involving the government? Because I think if you're talking about tech, you're talking about semi, you're talking about healthcare devices, you're eventually going to end up against regulatory compliances. Yes. And that forms a significant bit of the overhead that would be needed in actually getting to the consumer. So how do you view that? And what can be done from the investor side to kind of move the needle significantly to reduce that time to get to the consumer?
I think valid question.
Yeah.
I'll hand over to Raghav.
In fact, like you said, I think you answered the question yourself. That's the only way we can do it, through a consolidated effort, through a consortium. So I'll give you a couple of actionable examples which have happened recently. ICMR was looking at anemia detection. anemia detection typically is done in the standard with minimally invasive tools. So then ICMR thought there is also non-invasive tools that use, images of the conjunctiva, etc., to measure anemia levels. And the expectation for ICMR was that these were solutions that were already available at TRL 8-9 level. So we engaged with them. There was a multiple partners between Gates Foundation, there was Japaigo, there was India Health Fund, there was 8-9 different organizations which were funding in healthcare innovations. We did have a discussion. We gave them a detailed understanding of the technology landscape currently because we've done that research. We've showed them that these solutions are quite early right now. They still need a lot of evidence to go to the level at 8-9, which is when they'll be ready for adoption. So ICMR reworked their UI, and this is an example of how collective agency actually helped change that. They reworked their UI. They've opened themselves up for early stage solutions, which could then be looked at to be funded by entities like ourselves, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and other agencies, to develop this to the readiness that is needed. So the only way we can solve for this is make sure we're bringing this understanding collectively, share real problems from the ground in terms of regulatory, in terms of understanding new technologies, and they'll help move this by the agency, because by themselves, I think it'll be a very tough job. We'll have to also understand that, yeah.
At Social Alpha, we have separate team to do this and work with each startup who are, getting into this regulatory part. And they work closely with the governments and also the agencies and make sure that some of these at least gaps are, addressed while the product is being still developed. So we nowadays, like, impact investors are not just the investor, but they have many mentors and team of people working parallelly to address some of these questions or the hurdles which startups might face in future.
I think all the organizations participating here are involved with discussion with government for policy making and so on. So this is actually a very right forum, because PIC has a lot of activity going on in the policy making area. So this is a good question and good discussion. Maybe one last question. Oh, yeah, sorry.
Shall I?
Yeah.
For Deshpande Foundation, sir. We work at grassroots, and our presence is throughout the year. We focus on one particular project. Suppose we take the schools, then we make them complete ideal schools. So we can provide you all the details of our impact. And also, the report of monitoring and evaluation. Will we be eligible for some of the areas which you are working on? Because ours is a holistic program. So, is there any possibility where we can apply?
What you can do is, I think the impact is important.
Yes.
And scalability aspect is important.
Yes.
So, February 1st Saturday,
okay,
there's always an annual event in Deshpande Foundation, Hubli.
Hubli?
That's Hubli, yeah.
Yeah, my sister is there. I can come there.
Yeah,
Down.
so you can go there and you can, and you can talk to the people, present it there. I think there's a chance. Okay, I think it depends on what you're doing and is aligned with the education properly. And this is better than what is being done. I think we will get some support.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I think we have tea break after this. So any further questions can definitely be taken up.
One question. Can take a last.
Thank you. My name is Nisarga Udeshi. I did mention earlier that I run a company which does cultural treasure hunts in temples and heritage sites. Right now, my impact is only in terms of numbers of how many people participated. Could you elaborate a little bit more on how heritage treasure hunts or temple treasure hunts can create impact beyond the numbers?
Probably
it's your case. It's your use case.
Probably so, out of syllabus for all of us here. Yeah. I think.
I mean, no. As an entrepreneur, you'll have to see. I think somebody here, I think Tata.com, I think somebody expressed interest. They would also like to metric this, right? You're developing a social solution, that's fine, but you should also be able to put some metrics to it. As an entrepreneur, you're best placed to solve for this as a use case, to see how you want to measure it, and then how you want the funders to also measure that together with you. But again, it's not for somebody else to...
Yeah, I would suggest some or sort of livelihood generation can be connected with your exercise. That is not just for the impact matrix, but also it gives a lot of many CSR or funding agencies, they're looking for such a thing. One of the example I will give and finish this is Fool is our portfolio organization. Fool is someone, they collect temple flowers and had some scientific process to extract essence out of it. And they're making, incense sticks and colors, natural colors out of it. It's a big company now. But then the thought was the same, how the cultural and behavioral changes can, be done by science, technology, or any solutions. Now they have created a lot of livelihood through it. So I think that there is a lot of opportunity when you talk about culture heritage, about generating livelihoods for people, which is decentralized kind of solutions are there. And it would benefit you as an organization as well as people who are working with you.
Yeah, so not entirely out of syllabus. So thank you very much for that question. And thank you all the panelists for a great discussion.
Thank you, Mr. Kasmalkar and the panelists. May I request Mr. Prashant Girbane, Director General of MCCIA and General Secretary of Pune International Centre, to felicitate our panelists. Everybody has been waiting for the prize distribution. This is where all the effort, late nights, and determination take center stage. May I invite Dr. Mashelkar, Major General Nitin Gadkari, Mr. Prashant Girbane on stage for the prize distribution. So the winner for the Tribal Innovation Session is Rushi Mela Indigenous Knowledge and Scientific Education, Rice Foundation. Founder name is Rishikesh Khilare. Congratulations, Rice Foundation. The winner in the rural category is Wingrow Agritech Innovations. Founder name Vrinda Borkar. Sorry. And the winner from the urban category is SOCOM Solutions. Founder name Sonvi Khanna. As we come to the end of NCSI 2025, it is my pleasure to invite Major General Gadkari, Director of PIC, to share the next steps and deliver the vote of thanks.
Dr. Mashelkar, Prashant Girbane, Ladies and gentlemen, you'll agree with me, this is one of the most fascinating days intellectually that one could have gone through. Anyone who sat through and listened to me would probably go back home and say, thank God I sat. Started with the Anjani Mashelkar Foundation Awards. The award itself speaks volumes of both the standards that have been set up, the way it has been judged, and the quality of the product. It's an award which signifies, like Dr. Mashelkar has written in his book, more from less for more for everybody. We've had the whole day full of surprises. And to me, who would have thought that we can use the art of clowning for medical health or as a therapeutic measure? When you unleash the power of a free and focused mind, the outcome transcends limits. Limits which are limit of our own creation of our own mind. Time and again, one has seen boundaries being crossed. Small ideas fuel big revolutions, much like what we saw today during the presentations of the three categories in urban, rural, and tribal. All of those products, all of those ideas were brilliant. I'm sure I had done my own judgment. I went wrong in two. That only goes to show that each one of them was as good as the other. The objectives of the National Conference on Social Innovation is to encourage young entrepreneurial thinker to think innovatively and create new ideas that benefit the common people. An innovation which will increase effectiveness by consuming less time, fewer resources, in short, making more from less. Have we succeeded? I would give a resounding yes. If winners' innovations are of any significance, the future of our innovation is bright. I wish to congratulate today's winners and also all those who participated, not to lose heart. You never know, your product will win tomorrow. I wish to inform all of you who participated to remain in touch with the PIC Innovation Hub. I assure all entrepreneurs who want to develop something new that we are committed to helping them stay connected, and we are dedicated to support all young innovators. Having said that, let me thank some people who were involved in today's whole day's proceedings. To start with, our President, Dr. Mashelkar, our Vice President, Dr. Kelkar, have always encouraged innovation. Dr. Mashelkar's mantra has been innovate, 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 as innovation is a journey which has no end. My thanks go out to both of them for their tireless pursuit of this arduous journey in supporting social innovation. I thank all the participants, panelists, and judges for an inspiring and thoughtful day full of presentations and new ideas. And I need to mention the three panel discussions. Each one of them was better than the other, and the last one was brilliant. My thanks now go out to the PIC members led by Kiran, Geeta, our MC, Koena, the social innovation leads, Neeraj, Swarali, Prasad, our designer, Pranav, our IT lead, Harshal, our registration team, Tejas, and all those who helped in the proceedings today. I once again thank the audience for being patient and staying with us for this day-long session. I would have totally failed in my duty if, at last, but not the least, not thanked the SI area head, Shri Prashant Girbane, and his team of mentors, under whose guidance and effort the National Conference of social innovation was held. His guidance and persistent effort have contributed to the resounding success of this event. On that note, I declare the 13th National Social Innovation Conference closed. Thank you and Jai Hind.